Hello and welcome to the show. We start this week's Failrace episode with custom gaming on GTA 5. Now they've just completed a gang attack but do have a wanted level and there are police around causing trouble. Go to take out the police car, but notice the Failrace Police Department have turned up. I'm not quite sure what they're hitting to launch the cars quite as far as they do, but that is one way to make an entrance. That is most definitely one way, and one of the cars is upside down. So I feel like very much the Failrace Police Department have turned up there. RGM up next, also on GTA 5. Now, we're playing a game of Sumo. We got to the circle over here, I say relatively early. One of the first cars to make it all the way over here. Now, you want to stay within the circle, but you might try and be a little bit sneaky. Maybe try and punt some cars out as they are approaching the area. This time, however, it is a ramp off the front of a Countach-looking thing that launches the Aston, and amazingly, it somehow stays in the circle. Now, it's very difficult to see, so there's a swinger that's approaching with an awful lot of speed that kind of pings just underneath the tumbling pink car, and amazingly, the teamwork stopped the Rapid GT Classic here from going out of the circle. That like bounce into the air kept it within. You couldn't do that one better if you tried, if I'm honest. Dobbins Army up next on GTA 5 racing the open wheeled cars when, well, unsurprisingly, everything goes a little bit wrong. There's a little bit of contact. The car we're right on board with clonks the wall. Amazingly, despite clonking the wall and everybody else having a crash behind, the one we're following gets away somehow with pinging off the fence and lands back on the wheels. Range Rover up next on State of Decay 2 has got a rather battered car. Let's be honest, that's not in particularly great shape. So, they are going to be repairing the vehicle. The problem is, sometimes State of Decay doesn't really know what to do with cars, it's safe to say. So, just as this one gets repaired, it pings off of I think that's off the railing. It slides for no reason across the road, and then it's as broken as it was before. Not particularly helpful, really, in all of that. Mike up next on Project Cars 2. Now, the vehicle that we are following is an AI car, and as we head around the final corner at Donington Park, it runs a little bit too high, clips the side of the player's car before going for a massive roll. I love that it didn't affect anybody else at all. The player car was actually completely almost unaffected by that particular crash, but the AI car had a very big accident, and they got a bit stuck as well trying to deal with it. Dutch Cars up next on Project Cars 2, racing the Porsche when a little bit too much speed in a cone causes a lot of problems. I mean, the spin is fair enough, that happens when you've carried a bit too much speed. However, cone beats LMP car. Very much so in that instance. 3/4 up next on BeamNG.drive is messing around with a modded truck carrying a car in the back. Now, goes for a crash, trying to kind of jump off the bridge for a bit of fun, as you do. The thing is, while it initially kind of works, the truck gets stuck on the railing. So the car gets dumped off into the forest, and I guess was part of the plan. However, the truck gets stuck on the railing, and the game can't figure out how to deal with this. The only really way to deal with it, apparently, is to kind of melt it through the bridge and have it ping. I don't quite know how that's worked. That's definitely not how the physics should have gone. It's kind of anchored itself on one point, and then the rest doesn't really having collisions proper. I don't know. It's certainly very broken, and then the front wheel pings off as well, just for good measure as the truck twists around. Yeah, that was not quite the expected crash. That was not quite what they were going for there. Jeff next on Need for Speed Pro Street. Now, we know, if you've played this game, you know how dangerous these high-speed races are. And sure enough, BMW carrying a lot of speed over a bump. Things went badly wrong for the for the BMW there. A lot of nitro, and it just got the back end bouncing. And then sort of once it got the initial jump out of the initial bump out of the way, the secondary one just launched the car over, and that's dead. That is very much wrecked indeed. Although, speaking of wrecks, we move on to Wreckfest next with Zombie Gent driving the almighty winged Rebel Rat. Now, goes to have a crash against a bus. Now, this is kind of, I say, fairly normal, aside from the fact that, well, the car gets stuck underneath the bus and is now pushing the bus. Now, there's not much really the bus can do at this point. It can only steer. The player's car is kind of completely wedged underneath, but they actually make it around a corner. It's only as we start getting towards these jumps, the car actually ends up even further underneath the bus, finally manages to deposit the bus off from the roof, and then immediately clips a tyre bundle, and then gets crashed into by the bus as well. It turns out, in this instance, the bus wins, because the bus continues to push the car, and the car gets beached. Not so good. Not so good for the car. Foxy Fire on Wreckfest notices something rather curious during a demo derby. Yes, you just saw it flash past there. There is a vehicle that is not loaded in properly. There is a door and a fender, I think, going on. And while the hitbox for the car is still as if it was all there, visually, I don't know. It's a bit, I say it's a bit weird. In fact, no, it's very weird. There is still a hitbox to it, slightly more than what you can see visually, but that's not right. I'm gonna... It's just a door. There is a door racing across the arena to try and crash into somebody. And when paused, yeah, that's all there is of that car that is visible. I mean, it's the right colours, but that's definitely not what should be driving around. And this isn't the only one either. To dapper Mudkip with the super van. Not quite. Well, in some ways, there's more car there, in that there's a wheel and a bit more bodywork, but still not very... I mean, I've played a lot of Wreckfest. I've played an awful lot of Wreckfest. I love the game. I've never come across this. It's very, very peculiar. That is very peculiar indeed. And finally, we have Kiwako on Wreckfest with quite possibly the most unlucky chain of events. So, gets into contact with an AI car. So they're in third at the moment. Gets into contact with an AI car, tries to get going, and actually gets a bit too much oversteer at a rather narrow point. Bounces off the wall, first clipped by a rolling car, then clipped by everything. So that's roll number 1 for the vehicle. It's a pretty heavy crash as it rolls across. The leader then... because it's a sort of a loopy bit. The leader comes along, smacks the already fairly poorly car, and then once more for good luck from somebody recovering from a really bad start. That's a quick way to rather decimate your race. Amazingly still 16th, but yeah, that's a painful start. That's a painful start to a race. That, though, is going to be it for this episode. As ever, if you have clips you'd like to submit to this series, you can via our forums. There'll be a link in the description at the very top of the page is the Failrace clip submission section, and in there you can find all the rules and how to submit them. That, though, is going to be it from me. Thank you all very much for watching, and until next time, a goodbye.